13th, 2020, meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the Municipal Building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks to individuals serving our nation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. All right, Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mrs. Russell? Here. Mayor Hurd?
Here. Presentations. There are no presentations scheduled for this evening. Reports from volunteers at this time. Are there any reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? Frank, come on up.
Frank Spizzeri, 35 West Franklin Avenue, Vice Chair of the Open Space Committee. First off, Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Hey, good to see you. Second of all, congratulations to Ryan Hurd as Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate that.
And Kyle as Assistant Mayor. And special thanks to Dave Cole for last year. It was a good year. Did a good job. Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, getting down to business here. The slate for this year is actually the same as last year. Joe Wells is the chair, I'm the vice chair, and Robin Jones is the secretary. First thing on the agenda is we had a big to-do about the hoedown. I got a letter in the mail saying that it's going to be October 15th. Does anybody know why we changed it from September that we've been doing for 10 years on the same day, and now we're in October? Anybody have any?
Tom and Andrea had asked. They pushed it back because they wanted to give it more of a fall feel. That's what Parks and Rec said.
Yeah, but the whole town's been doing it for 10 years on September the 15th. Now you're going to change it. You think they're all going to remember that?
Thing, so they reached out, and that was their answer.
Well, did they poll anybody in any committees and see? Because we're all there at every hoedown. Nobody asked any of us.
I guess we'll try it this year and let's see how it is. Let's see what the turnout is, compare it to last year, and see what the best time slot is.
Okay, we had a big to-do about it at the meeting because we all thought it would be the same, but obviously other minds.
Yeah, I'm afraid it could get cold.
So I guess I should talk to Parks and Rec then, huh?
Guess you try it. If it doesn't work, you put it back.
Yeah. If I can read my writing, I'll go to the next thing here. Jesus, I can't even write it straight. I can't even read straight. Anyway, one thing that we want is the committee itself is short 2 people, and we would like to invite anybody from the public that would like to join the Open Space Committee to please put your papers in with Carol. And I think in June there'll be new appointments, and you possibly can get on at that point. We could use some help just to have a quorum. We normally had 10 people, now we're down to 7. So. And if some of the other liaisons have to go to another meeting, we won't even have a quorum to have a meeting. So that kind of puts us in a little bind. So if anybody wants to join, please put your name in.
So we're looking for 2 members for the Open Space Committee.
That's correct.
Excellent.
Right. one of the things that we want to do this year, hopefully, is to open up some of the sections for the Riverwalk and turn them over to the Parks and Rec so that they officially become part of Parks and Rec, which is what our initial intent was. And hopefully when we get things all organized, we'll have some ribbon cuttings for the mayor to come and cut some ribbons.
Great. And the time and place, we'll be there.
And of course,
The whole
everybody else on the
council
council will be invited too. I have one other thing here, but I can't tell what it is. But I'll think about it, and I may be back.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Nobody? Okay, seeing no one. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Public comment period would be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period for public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Anyone? No? Nobody's got anything to say. It's going to be a great year.
It's early yet.
All right. Don't hex me. Seeing none, there will be no additional public comments. We'll continue with the agenda. All right. Next item on our agenda is the mayor's report. Managers. Mr. Brewer. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Hurd.
Thank you.
A few things to touch upon, and then the balance of my report is scheduled for discussion later tonight. The first is just, I wanted to report at a public meeting to the council about the recent water testing. Shortly after receiving the results were posted in letter form and information form on the website. But just to bring everybody up to speed, the second round of lead and copper testing for 2019 was initiated in November. All of the results were received by December 20th. Of the 60 samples, there was one that exceeded the action level of 15 parts per billion, so we would need 6 or more to exceed to have public notice. So based upon the one, no public notice was necessary. Just for the benefit of the council, the one exceedance was included in the prior round and did not exceed. The exceedance in the prior rounds did not repeat.
So what caused the lead levels to come down?
I don't believe there was ever an issue with lead in this system. So what caused the lead levels, I would merely be speculating if I gave you an answer. I don't have a clear answer for you.
Kind of odd, but okay.
So if people made changes in their plumbing, they were supposed to notify us to be removed from the sampling. They did not. So we did have one person opt not to participate, so that person was replaced.
So the person participated in the first round but didn't want to participate in the second round?
Correct. So there was a procedure to replace that from the greater sample size.
Can I ask you a question, though? Did you say the one that exceeded didn't exceed in the first?
Correct.
round? What would cause that?
Again, speculation, it could be water sat in the tap longer and there may have been a lead solder joint in that and there was exposed more, whereas the last time it was only 12 hours, this time maybe it was a week. We don't know. The samples are sent out with instructions and they fill them up and send them back to us sealed.
Do we know things like, did they take the samples from the same location? Like if they did it from their basement or first floor, second floor bathroom?
I believe that's what the instructions...
The instructions are to be consistent.
Depends how
Now,
they follow.
again,
Whether or not
was
they
a
were
staff member
compliant.
standing there watching everybody do it? No, so I can't say for certainty, but the instructions were to do so.
Okay.
With respect to the lead testing, or the copper testing, there were no exceedances for copper. So the next step for lead and copper testing is we have to do another sample by June 30th of 2020. Staff anticipates that to be sometime in March or April. If that doesn't include any exceedances, we can make application to go back to the testing more similar to what it was previously. If it is an exceedance, then we have to continue with the action plan. Along those lines, just in case there's questions and so people are informed, we also had notices in 2019 for total trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids. All of the testing since that notice went out has indicated that those levels are well lower. Some of that is attributable attributable to the fact that Newark did implement some changes at the Pequannock plant, so the water we're getting from Newark is better. We're using a little less Newark water than we were in the past, so that could have an impact on the total trimethanes and the halioacidics. All of the information is available at Water Watch, so if you Google Water Watch and put in Pequannock's name, you can see all of the data. It's all reported publicly, but the total trihalomethanes have been ranging in the 30s and 40s for micrograms per liter. The action level is 80, and the halioacidic acids have been ranging in the 20 to 30s, again, micrograms per liter, and the action level is 60. So everything has come down pretty significantly.
So who puts the information on that website? Us or the DEP after we send them the samples?
I'm not sure if the lab sends it directly to them or we send it directly to them, but once Water Watch and DEP and us pretty much get the information simultaneously or within a couple of days from each other.
Do you know what the blend is now between our wells and what we're taking in from Newark?
It's less than 60/40 that it was previously because we've had such a wet year, so we've been able, we haven't needed as much water. One of the benefits of the Newark water is it helps with firm capacity, which is the maximum amount of water we have to be able to provide in order to establish new connections. So that's a requirement, but because we've had such wet years, there's been less demand, so we've had less use of Newark's water.
Okay.
Firm capacity, is that pressure or?
No, it's the total amount of available water for the system. It has to, there are certain percentages, and I don't want to speculate on them, above and beyond what your normal demand is for fire protection and other needs and things like that. So that's the update on water.
Excellent.
The next item within the report is proposed, there's some conversation about the meeting schedule associated with the municipal budget. So I took last year's experience, which was my first, and kind of did a blueprint over 2020's calendar and shared that with the council. If the council thinks that works, we can set that up and move forward accordingly. If there are things that the council would like to change, I'm all ears.
Okay.
The one question I did have is, we have a local custom associated with not scheduling the potential adoption of the budget on the date of the public hearing. And the virtue of that is, if there's significant comment from the public, listening to everybody have lots of comment and then adopting the budget kind of negates the virtue of having the public comment. So it was separated. What I might suggest is we schedule the public hearing and potential adoption on the same date, and if there is significant comment with the schedule that's articulated in the memos, we could always hold the vote for further review to the following meeting. But that's, again, council's prerogative.
So that would be April 28th, public hearing and possible adoption.
Correct.
And if need be, we could go to May 12th.
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, too. Do the dates work for everybody?
I have to check my calendar,
Okay.
but at this moment, I don't see a problem.
So we can double check and firm them up for next meeting?
We can firm them up, and obviously, if something needs to change, we can change it.
Okay.
It's just to come up with a general approach.
Yeah, I would think if anybody has a conflict, it probably would be best to either send out a text or...
True. Well, let's see,
Rather than wait till the next
Yeah,
meeting.
if you could let me know if there's an issue, then I'll...
does February 20...
Meeting nights, right? Yeah, sure.
Some of them are, yeah, that's correct.
Does Saturday, the 22nd work for everybody? At least we can get that on the schedule and figure out the rest.
9 to 12?
Yeah,
We could
that's okay.
probably just...
That's the big one with the initial discussion.
Right, that's going to be a
That
Saturday.
one works. That one works for me.
Yeah, the 22nd works for me as well.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
What are you looking at, February?
February 22nd.
February 22nd.
That's going to be the long one.
March 10th is a meeting.
Rich, do you know if that works for you?
Saturday should be okay.
All right.
March 17th is not.
Phyllis?
It looks good.
All right, so let's put that down definitely for Saturday, the 22nd. We can kick it off. And then if everybody can take a look at their schedules and reference the other days, we can get them moved around.
I will be out of the country on March 24th.
Can I come? Oh, sorry.
I'm leaving on the 21st.
I will have to sit down and look
I
at
won't
these
be
dates.
back.
Yeah.
That Saturday looks good.
Right, and again, it's the approach, and if it works, great. If not, we can move stuff to the 22nd.
At least we're kicking off on the 22nd. All right.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Other than the Rangers report being in as requested, the balance of the items are scheduled for discussion. So that's the conclusion of my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. All right, public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. Next on the agenda, ordinances for introduction. Seeing none, none are scheduled for introduction at this time. Next on the agenda is resolutions. Mrs. Marsh.
Beginning with Resolution R 2020-51, authorizing the use of Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council for the Hillview Road improvement projects in the amount of $274,138. R 2020-52, authorizing change order NJDOT 1, modifying the approved quantities and fee consistent with the use of the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council for the West Parkway Improvements Project to the amount of $357,602.02. 2020-53, appointing members to the Zoning Board of Adjustment, that's William Hart. R 2020-54, authorizing participation in an electronic tax sale program in 2020. 2020-55, authorizing utility office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. R 2020-56, naming DMC Associates as township surveyors for the year 2020. And R 2020-57, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the January 10th, 2020 bill list of additional previously dispersed checks, and 2015 FEMA elevation escrow list.
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
So 2052, that went down. We budgeted 390.64, and it came in at 357?
Correct. If council and the public recalls, we did a lot of paving, so it was a quantity estimate, and we estimated a little high, which is always better than a little low. So it's approximately a $33,000 reduction.
Nice.
So that goes back into our paving budget, correct?
It remains within the authorization, which is an ordinance, and when we pave, correct, it would be available.
Excellent. Anything else? All right, is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-51 through 2020-57.
Second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Hurd?
Yes. All right, next on the agenda, items for discussion. The FEMA preliminary firm appeal.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As the council and the public knows, this is something that initiated in 2016 and has been ongoing for several years. With me this evening, I asked Jennifer McCulloch, Township's Flood Resilience Officer, to join us in case there were any questions that Ms. McCulloch would be able to answer. But just to bring everybody up to speed, this is something that is an ongoing issue. It receives regular attention and effort. It's just not something that requires legislative action a lot, so it's being worked on. It's just not being discussed at this level or in public. The current status is much as what it was previously. The Scientific Resolution Panel is now listed on the website of the National Institute of Building Standards, so we know it's coming. NIBS contacted me and identified me as the municipal official for the township after we responded that we wanted to have an individual SRP, but just to give everybody on the council an idea that there was a timeline that was established of just some of the events going from 2016 to present, just to share the information. Some of the issues we've had with FEMA where they tried to exclude our technical data. United States Senator Cory Booker sent a letter to FEMA after a resident reached out to his office, so I don't know if council was aware that there was a U.S. Senator that got involved on our behalf. We have regular conversations around the building. Jennifer and I meet regularly to speak about it, and the Senator's office calls regularly to check up on progress. We're continuing to do the best we can. The next step really is the SRP, but I did want to just have that report in public and bring everybody up to speed. Jennifer, goofed anything up?
No, you didn't goof anything up. I would only add a couple things. Just to give you an idea of how slow this process is moving, we applied in March of last year, and it was supposed to be a 6-month process, and it's now been 10 months, and we have not even been sent a list of panel members to choose from, which is the next step.
So, Jennifer, is this good or bad?
Don't hear me, but it's bad. It's very bad.
So would we prefer them to make a decision
We prefer
quicker,
them to
or
move
we'd
this
like to get
process
it to...
along because we have all these residents that are in limbo.
I don't think she's saying it's bad that we have a lesser chance of winning.
Oh, no.
The adverse consequence, though, is the
Exactly.
residents who are left.
FEMA's dragging their feet.
Is there anything we can do to move this along?
You know, I think that we have Senator Booker batting for us, and I think that's about as good as it gets. He wrote an excellent letter.
Do you
Well, the
think
biggest
maybe
problem-
an email to Senator Booker thanking him for his help
Yeah, maybe.
Because continued help.
I mean, that would be Adam's call.
Yeah, whatever, and if the council wants to send something, I'd be happy to send something. I mean, I've obviously expressed the...
I think that'd be
gratitude
great.
of the township. I'll share that it was discussed in public and that the council appreciates the efforts as well.
I mean, because right now, we're just basically held in limbo.
Yes, we're just waiting. That's what I was responding to as it being bad. We are
Exactly.
held in limbo, and I get phone calls continuously from homeowners saying, what's going on, because, you make an application for a process that's supposed to take 6 months, and 10 months later, it hasn't even really started.
Right, and the homeowners think that they're in flood, and we don't have clarification, and there's even byproducts if they want to put an addition on their house and do anything that we have to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest byproducts, and Melissa can probably speak to this, is that if a homeowner goes to sell their home, even though these maps are preliminary and they're not supposed to be being used by banks, they are in fact being used by the banks. And the bank's viewpoint is, it's our money at risk, we're going to use, the most conservative model. And the most conservative model is, you could end up in a floodplain, so we're going to require flood insurance. So it's having a profound effect on homeowners.
So my question is, if they're still preliminary, are we using them for construction?
We are.
We're required
And
to...
if we are, why?
We're actually required to use those maps compared to the DEP. And right now, the DEP is actually more restrictive. That could change once the maps are adopted.
So even though they're preliminary, I want to put an addition on my house.
And you live in the flood zone relative to the new maps.
Yeah.
Right.
There's gonna
So,
be
I mean,
restrictions.
the goal is safety. So if you think about it...
450 square feet, I think, is all you're allowed to do.
I thought it was 300
I'm sorry, can you...
How many square feet is it?
that you can add
That
onto
you
a
can add
house.
on?
Oh, that I don't know.
It's small.
It's small.
3, 4.
No.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue is, we have 334 structures, which is 284 residential structures and 50 commercial industrial structures that are all of a sudden in the floodway, which is the most restrictive, highest flood risk area. And then we have 229 homes that have been moved into the floodplains. So literally 21% of individuals that previously did not require flood insurance now do.
Right, and those that are in flood way, relative to floodplain, have a different level of construction techniques.
Exactly. They're not allowed to increase the footprint of their home or add any auxiliary
Banks are only
structures.
doing that when they sell. Banks aren't reaching out to people right now saying, you have to pay. That's not happening. 'Cause
No,
I
they're
haven't
not
heard- I
reaching
haven't heard
back.
that. I
to
haven't
people
heard
that
when you
are-
go to buy.
It's if there's a change of ownership.
Right, okay.
That's when it kicks in.
So the bottom line is we continue to bring the best fight we can. Just a reminder, the National Institute of Building Sciences is an independent organization that will convene the panel of which we'll have say over some of the membership. We'll bring our expert, professional engineer, Mr. Scoopy, to bring our cause.
We've requested oral arguments, so
We'll bring it like it's a hearing, and we're doing the best we possibly can. If people have questions, they're free to reach out to my office, obviously Jennifer's office. And, long fight though it is, 2016 is a long time for someone to be
yeah,
dealing
it's been
with
almost
this.
4 years.
We're continuing to do the best that we can.
And just one, added layer of frustration here is the DEP has been using our flood data models since September of 2018. They reviewed them and said, yeah, these are correct, and they've been actually using them.
The ones that Scoopian sent?
Exactly.
Correct.
Now, what's interesting about that is the state of New Jersey and the DEP are what's called a cooperating technical partner with FEMA, which means that FEMA is supposed to defer to a CTP in a situation like this because, understandably, they believe that the local entities have a better handle on these things than the federal government does, but for some reason that's,
And we're just backed up, and they will default to that, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. I've done research also on cases that were successful, so I have a list of people that have, voted in favor of communities, and we'll keep that in mind when we finally get the list to choose from.
I'm curious why FEMA's dragging their feet on this, because they can't make the maps finalized until they go through all these hearings, correct?
Correct.
So if the whole idea was to get money, which it was, then you think they would rush it through.
I think they're just overwhelmed.
I think so as well.
If you think municipal government is bureaucracy, dealing with the Federal Emergency Management Administration is nothing like I've ever experienced.
And I think they know that they're wrong, and I think they're trying to drag it out as long as they can, so people just say, oh, you know what?
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
Wow. That's a lot of people to just say, whatever.
It's a lot of windowless, doorless bureaucrats that are making decisions with huge impact that never have to answer for it.
Thank you both, Adam and Jennifer, for what you've done on it.
No,
We're trying.
more than welcome. Any other questions?
Any other questions, council?
How's our number for flood insurance?
CRS.
CRS.
Oh, it's a 5.
It's a 5.
It's a 5.
Are we doing anything to try to make that
We are.
Is it the higher the number goes, it's better?
It's the
for us?
lower.
Oh,
It's
the
the
lower.
lower. Yes,
So we're trying to become a 4.
There are some very high bars we have to meet to get to a 4, and Adam and I have been working on that. That includes doing a watershed master plan, which we would need to do with Lincoln Park. We would need to form some planning committees, which actually require ordinances. So we are working towards that as well.
But a 5 right now gives us a 25% discount.
25%, that's correct.
And if we go to a 4, what would it be?
20%. But the thing about a 4 is it has a broader effect in terms of things like getting grants.
Right.
So just to give you an idea, less than 1% of communities in the United States have a rating of 4 or less.
So that doesn't make sense. So for a 5, we get a 25% discount?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 30%.
Oh,
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
Sorry.
5 turns into 4, 25 turns into 30. We're doing a lot of math.
That would
Yeah,
be
sorry about that.
significant. That would be great.
So-
We got-
Yeah, it would be.
Best case, it's going to be a lot of hoops to jump through.
Right.
But we go from a 25 to 30% discount.
Right, and
The
it's-
residents do.
The residents do. And the thing that's important to know is there are no increased regulations on the residents.
Okay, so no
Go
more.
5 to a 4. So it's
above-
not like all of a sudden, our building ordinances need to become more strict.
I will say, continue to do whatever you can to get the better rate.
Yeah.
I know it's
Yeah.
a lot to do, but I think we all should be behind it 100%.
Especially if it can help us with grants and such.
Yeah,
Not
well,
only
and
will it help the
emergency funding
residents,
as
but-
well. I mean, you basically go to the head of the line
Okay,
once you're a 4 community or less. All right?
thank you.
Hey, Jen, do you mind while you're up there, I'm looking at your flood report. Do you have that with you? Do you want to give a quick update on that or no?
The report from the committee?
Yeah, or...
I mean, I can if you like. I
can
don't
go
have
over
a
it.
copy with me.
All right, no, I'll go over it, that's all right. I don't want to
Okay.
have this one.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, John.
You too.
We just stick around?
Yeah, just in case there's a question, unless, we're almost done, right?
Yeah.
Just for the report.
All right. Any other questions, council? All right, Shade Tree Commission, draft ordinance.
As council may recall, there was a recommendation from the Shade Tree Commission to consider an ordinance registering tree contractors in the township of Pequannock. About a year ago, I think it was originally brought up. We discussed it, we ground through some changes. I thank the Shade Tree Commission chairperson in the back of the room for working together with that, also with the Department of Public Works, to make sure everybody's on the same page. As a result of all the discussion, the draft ordinance that was prepared inside the packets is for council's consideration and discussion. To give a couple of highlights, obviously the first thing it accomplishes is it establishes the requirement for tree contractors to register with the Township of Pequannock annually. It's a $5 annual registration fee with $5 per decal per truck. They would have to be licensed by the state of New Jersey in order to be eligible for that. In addition, the current code includes a list of trees, but my recommendation is that lists like that not be codified in law, but be more dynamic. So it changes for the list to be established by the Director of Public Works in consultation with the Shade Tree Commission. So that way, if there's an outbreak of any kind of disease or other issues with trees, it can be changed more readily than if an ordinance would be required. And lastly, there's some clarification in the draft ordinance about if there's a tree that's planted outside of the municipal right-of-way. In some cases, we give homeowners the option that tree would then be the homeowner's responsibility, not the municipality's responsibility, eliminating some confusion. And again, there's clarification in some of the language between if the developer does it versus the municipality does it.
So just a question, clarification on trees. So when we're talking about the physical trees themselves, the type and variety.
Yes.
Are we talking about, we're talking about right-of-way, but what about in the middle of my property or in my backyard.
No.
You can do whatever you choose to or not choose to with your property.
So I can choose whatever tree I want in my property.
Correct. The only thing that pertains to private property here is if someone, for example, has a sidewalk and they say, I don't want it in the right of way, I'd rather have it a foot inside on my property, we will replace a tree that way, but then it's the homeowner's responsibility.
So if
Otherwise, it's your property,
You're
it's
not
your
getting a shade
property.
tree in your backyard from the shade tree.
Right, but we're not limiting somebody to plant
Correct.
whatever in their backyard.
We're trying to protect our trees on our right of way.
Right.
Okay. Questions? Anybody?
How do we move it forward? Next meeting?
If council is comfortable with the ordinance as drafted, it'll be prepared for introduction and at the meeting on the 28th.
Looks good for me.
Works.
I'm fine with it.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Reports and notices. There are no reports and notices. Next on the agenda, council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Okay, real quick. The Senior Citizen Advisory Committee met. There were 3 reappointments, Betty Valley, Laurel Loeb, and Jean Powers to a 3-year term, and they reorganized, and Laurel Loeb is the chair, Jean Powers is the co-chair, and Betty Valley is the secretary. Next Tuesday, January 21st, from 1 to 3, at the senior house, the seniors are going to have their regular meeting. It's a soup luncheon. They always love it if the mayor wants to come.
Sure, what's the date?
It's Tuesday, January 21st. They're having a soup luncheon for $5. I'm sure you don't have to pay the $5.
I'll pay.
And they're going to have 2 guest speakers. Captain Daniel Commune is going to come in from the police department, kind of just give a little Q&A, and a rep from a place called Take a Breath. They're going to do a presentation on relaxation techniques. So if you happen to be around, you want to stop in, they'd love to see you. They'll probably let you say a few words.
I could use some relaxation.
And March 17th, they're going to have the corned beef and cabbage for St. Patty's Day, and they're holding that on St. Patty's Day, Tuesday, March 17th, from 1 to 3. I know the senior group met with the town manager to go over some policy issues, and I guess that was a success. You gave us a report on that. And the next senior meeting is Tuesday, February 4th at 10:30. The Flood Advisory Committee met. 4 appointments were made this year for a 3-year term. Joe DeFranco, Dave Hallberg, thanks Dave, Nick DeStefano, if I'm saying that right, and Dara Hardacre. They're all 3-year terms. They did their reorganization for officers. Dave Hallberg is the chair.
I'm so surprised.
Nick is the vice chair. He wasn't even there.
He wasn't
See
even
what
there.
happens?
And if I'm not correct, I believe Mr. Holberg was late before he
Right.
became the chairman. He wasn't there either.
No, he came in, but he was already made the chair before he got there.
Congratulations.
And Louise is the secretary. Thank you for stepping up.
Even though you did.
And don't come late.
He accepted. He could have turned around and walked out. And then some things that were talked about were that they plan on doing this year, and some questions that came up. I know that they want to work on another outreach to the community, get some people walking around. They talked about taking the flood safety information book that has flood tips in it and whatnot, making that into a door hanger. And there's a lot of people that moved into the community that didn't live
Right.
here last time we flooded.
I believe we had a door hanger made at some point.
We did at some point, so we'll have to...
I'll see if I still have that
Yeah,
info.
that was back when you were around. So I know they're talking about bringing some things around, whether it be a door hanger or maybe get bags and fill them with different things that they can put around the neighborhoods. They did talk about that they need to get traction on these permits. I guess the de-snagging permits, we're still waiting on that. That's what I wanted to ask you about, Jen. I
Yeah,
guess-
the council authorized H2M
Right.
architects and engineers. We're waiting for the applications. to
Yeah,
be
again, it's just a process.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And what else? And there was some discussion about, where are we, does anybody know where we are with the flood app? The flood app was supposed to have some updates and revisions and connect it to the website, and I don't know where we are with
So now that the Pequannock Township website is up and running.
Right.
We invested this year, you might recall, in some CRS software.
Right.
Which will also help us to get more points. Once that is in place, then we can revise the flood app to point to those two
Right,
things.
so we just can't do anything yet.
Right,
We're
so,
still in waiting.
yeah, it's a sequential process that we're going through right now.
And what was the other thing? And then the only other thing I wanted to bring up about the flood meeting was the foundation requirements. Did we find out?
Yeah, I sent out an email to the whole committee about that. So open foundations are allowed, but they have to be built a specific way that both covers up the piles, if you will, that they're built on. You can have an opening on the front or on the back, but you can't have a see-through situation. So we're trying to avoid the look of houses on stilts, basically.
So they misinterpreted, I guess, right? Because
Well, the other thing that comes into play here is, they do these things called helicals into the ground, which is basically like a giant screw that makes sure that the house is stable. So they have to do soil testing. So some homes, can't be built on the piles. They have to be on a closed foundation.
Okay, so that was their
structural.
That was their.
Yeah, so there are structural issues that are.
It was structural. Okay, all right. Thanks for
But I did
clarifying.
speak with the construction official and the zoning official, and they are allowed.
Great,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Just gonna have a see-through.
All right, that's all I have on that. Thank you very much for clarifying. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the meeting, that's why
All right.
And then the only other thing, well, I'll let you talk about this. You're probably going to bring this up?
You can do it.
Okay. And we got the official notice that the mayor's annual riverbank cleanup is going to be Saturday, April 4th from 9 to 1, along with the Environmental Commission. So I happened to bring that up. And what else? And that's it. Oh, and I wanted to bring up Grains of Hope. The Grains of Hope meal packing event is scheduled for Sunday, March 22nd from 12 to 7. It's a great community event, and they opened up registration for that. So you can go to, PequannockGrainsOfHopeNJ.org. It's actually peq.gohnj.org. So that's a great thing to get involved in. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, Councilman Cole.
All right, First Aid Squad met last night, 53 calls in December. They had two Girl Scouts events at the First Aid Squad building on December 16th and January 9th. They assisted with the polar plunge on January 5th. The squad responded to the Butler New Year's Eve fire for fire rehab, so they've been pretty busy. They also wanted to thank the town mechanic. They brought ambulance 58 in for repairs, and it seems like the repairs for the First Aid Squad with the town mechanic have been going very well, so please extend our thanks to Todd for that.
Will do. Thank you.
Polar plunge, congratulations to the students that ran that, to Parks and Rec. They did a great job this past Sunday. Also, just a reminder, Sunday, January 19th, we have the Eagle Scout ceremony. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was on November 28th, I sent some questions regarding the sewer master plan, just wondering where we stand with that, and if anyone has any questions that haven't been answered as of yet.
All righty. Yeah, I'd like to get that master plan taken care of. All right, Councilman Phelan.
Just a reminder that this Saturday is the fire company installation dinner.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Brian. Mayor. And then that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Mayor Russell.
The environmental committee is doing a Trex bag challenge, so there'll be a drop-off at the library, and I think they're looking for another spot. we collect 500 pounds of bags and we weigh it ourselves, they will donate a Trex bench to the library.
Did I hear you say we weigh it ourselves?
Yeah, we do. They give us a container and then we weigh it and we store it, we weigh it and we store it, and then we tell them we have our 500 and then they give a bench.
Okay. Great. Thanks for getting the bench.
500 pounds of bags, that's a lot of bags.
You know what? A lot of people have them.
Oh, yeah. Come to my house, we'll give you a lot of bags.
Yeah, so there'll be a drop-off container at the library, and then we're looking for one other place. Trex is giving us 2 containers, so
How long does that run for?
that can rental as long as we want.
So there's no time limit, it's just until we get it, and then we can send it off and...
And then we can
bench.
keep going and get another bench,
Sounds good to me.
you know, and,
Can we pick the color?
no, it's a
Blue and
Trex
gold?
bench. It's Trex, it's the Trex wood, so no, we don't paint Trex.
Blue and gold.
No. Like the fire hydrants? No.
Is that all, Deputy Mayor?
That's all.
All right, I am next. Let's see. We had open space meeting, and there was a ruckus because of the hoedown being moved, but I think we took care of that. Let's see how that is this year. What else? I will look up for the door hangers. I think I still have that information. That was a couple of years ago. Again, Saturday, April 4th, 9 to 1, Mayor's Cleanup, meet over at Senior House. Grains of Hope echoing that. We've done that for the last couple of years. I believe it was the year before last was our millionth dinner. Meal, right. Millionth meal.
Package meal.
Say that 10 times straight. Let's see. And then Polar Plunge, congratulations. Over 2 years, you guys have raised over $10,000, and that's incredible. And that's all I have. Moving right along. Public comment. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anybody wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. To come to the microphone and provide your name and address for the record. Anyone? Wow. Don't everybody rush up here. All righty. Seeing none, approval of minutes, or no minutes presented for approval. Next on the agenda, these are items for closed session. Is there a motion to approve resolution R 2020-58, authorizing the Township Council to meet in executive session to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege related to the Route 23 sewer ordinance and contract negotiations related to property acquisition
And tax appeals.
and tax appeals?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, the public portion of the meeting is recessed for the closed session.